Tonight, a quiet song is making an unignorable noise across the country. Kelsea Ballerini's new viral track, I Sit in Parks, isn't a breakup anthem and it isn't empowerment pop. It is something far more haunting, an honest confession about longing, regret, and the loneliness feminism never prepared women for. With raw lines like I sit in parks, it breaks my heart, Ballerini captures a growing ache among young women, those who chased independence, ambition, and the promise of limitless freedom, only to look around and wonder if the life they ran toward cost them the life they secretly wanted. As her lyrics spread across social media, they're striking a nerve, not because they're dramatic, but because they are undeniably real. And tonight, we take a deeper look at why this song is resonating like a generational whisper. 3 years after her divorce, Ballerini is now confronting questions she once avoided. On Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast, she admitted she wasn't ready for children, while her ex-husband was eager to start a family. At the time, she believed that uncertainty meant freedom, more space to explore, to grow, to create her own path. But today, her music reveals a new emotional landscape, one shaped by quiet observations of families and parks, and the heavy stillness of wondering whether she waited too long. It's not self-pity, it's self-reckoning. And for countless women, her honesty hits close to home. For decades, culture encouraged them to delay marriage, delay motherhood, delay roots, but it rarely addressed what happens when later becomes now, and the window they thought would stay open begins to narrow. Lines like, "Did I miss it? Is it my fault for chasing things a body clock doesn't wait for?" land with cultural weight. They expose a contradiction at the heart of modern feminism, the belief that women can have anything at any time without consequence. But biology, emotions, and human longing never signed that contract. Writers like Bethany Mandel argue that women were sold a vision of freedom that ignored their deepest desires: connection, family, legacy. And as Ballerini's song circulates widely, it's becoming more than a musical release. It's turning into a mirror, forcing a generation to reevaluate what having it all really means. Not as an attack on feminism, but as an overdue conversation about the cost of postponing the things that make life truly meaningful. In her lyrics, Ballerini doesn't blame anyone. Not her ex, not herself, not society. She simply observes. She watches couples on blankets and wonders whether the woman beside that man envies her freedom just as she envies their rootedness. It's a quiet but devastating comparison, highlighting how modern culture left many women suspended between two ideals: independence and intimacy. Meanwhile, public voices like Mandel insist that motherhood isn't a limitation, but a deepening of one's purpose, arguing that young women deserve to hear all sides of the story before making life-shaping decisions. And so, through one song, a national debate is being revived. Not loud, not polarizing, but reflective. A debate centered on choice, timing, and the fragile balance between ambition. Ballerini's vulnerability has struck a cultural nerve because it challenges the sanitized version of empowerment many young women were raised on. For years, society emphasized achievement over attachment, urging women to build resumes instead of families, to prioritize ambition over affection. But the emotional fallout rarely made headlines. Now, through a simple melody and a raw confession, Ballerini has unintentionally become the voice for a quiet crisis: women who find themselves successful, independent, and deeply lonely. Her song doesn't offer solutions, it offers recognition. And in a world obsessed with curated confidence, that honesty feels revolutionary. Her reflections echo a sentiment shared in growing online communities, like the Mom Wars, where women push back against the idea that motherhood is a derailment rather than a destination. These voices highlight the joy of building families and the strength found in nurturing others, ideas once dismissed as outdated. Ballerini's lyrics, filled with longing rather than regret, sit at the center of this cultural shift. They reveal a woman who isn't condemning her past choices, but acknowledging the cost of them. And to many listeners, that nuance feels like the beginning of a more balanced conversation about what fulfillment truly looks like. Meanwhile, Ballerini's own life contrasts with the grief in her song. She speaks openly about self-care rituals, creative growth, and the freedom she enjoys today. Yet the track suggests that freedom alone isn't enough. It's a reminder that independence can be liberating, but also isolating when not grounded in relationships or legacy. The tension between these truths is what makes her message resonate. It's not a plea for traditional roles or a rejection of modern ambition. It's a recognition that the human heart doesn't operate on cultural timelines. And sometimes, realizing what you want comes only when you fear it might be too late. As the conversation around Ballerini's song widens, more women are stepping forward to admit similar feelings, not necessarily regret, but a nostalgia for a life they never let themselves imagine. It exposes a silent tension shaping modern womanhood, the belief that independence must come at the cost of intimacy, or that ambition cancels out the desire for family. Ballerini's vulnerability cracks that narrative open. She isn't blaming feminism or dismissing the opportunities it offered. Instead, she's revealing the emotional gaps left behind when empowerment is defined only by achievement. Social media comments reflect the same conflicted longing. Women in their late 20s and 30s confessing that they spent years chasing careers, partners, and cities, only to suddenly feel the weight of time. Her song gives language to a grief many didn't know how to name. That's why the track feels less like a critique and more like a quiet cry for balance, a reminder that success means little if you have no one to share it with. In many ways, Ballerini's honesty is reshaping the broader cultural conversation about what women truly want versus what they are told to want. I Sit in Parks forces listeners to consider whether freedom alone can fulfill the human heart, or whether we've ignored deeper, quieter needs for too long. As critics praise her boldness, others see the song as a turning point, a chance to reevaluate how society frames motherhood, partnership, and purpose. None of this makes Ballerini weak. It makes her profoundly relatable. She is naming a universal truth, that joy often lives in the ordinary moments we overlook. Her reflections may inspire younger women to think sooner, to choose with intention rather than fear, and to recognize that vulnerability is not an obstacle, but a guide. If her song sparks even a small shift in perspective, then its impact reaches far beyond the park bench where it was born, offering a gentler, more human vision of what fulfillment can look like.